do you feel about the current issues of the moment? The current issues of the moment. Tell me how you feel about the current issues of the moment.
Confused and disturbed.
Hi, my name's Margaret Dioria, and these are some of my friends. You're probably wondering how we got here. Well, welcome to 2020. Let me show you how.
2020 has been a wild ride, to say the least. The wackiest year of my lifetime, for sure. When talking about this year and how we got to here, how do you even begin to explain it? We could go month by month, but we all know what's happened this year. And besides, who can tell the difference between May, March, and August? We could go issue by issue, but the issues aren't really separated like that. You can't talk about the coronavirus without talking about the race and class issues in America, because poor people and people of color experience the virus at higher rates than white people and rich people do. And you can't talk about race and class issues in America without bringing up the leadership we have at the moment, a leadership that is unwilling to help anybody. And you cannot talk about being a Notre Dame student in 2020 without acknowledging that every one of these other issues is an underlying stressor to being an everyday college student trying to get by with no breaks and pretend that life is normal. So instead, I think the most efficient way to handle this is to talk about 5 words that people are feeling right now. And the first word to use is exhausted. People of all ages are exhausted. Exhausted of being in quarantine, exhausted of the daily headlines, the daily count of people that have died, the daily new hot take that comes out of the office. This is the same year that our president was under impeachment trial. And now we're in the middle of a pandemic being told that a vaccine's coming in weeks, daily, with no understanding of how we're going to get out of this. How do you even keep up with all these headlines and keep yourself okay mentally? It is exhausting. And we have to continue on like everyday life is normal sometimes. It's hard. That leads into the second word, which are pretty closely connected, but have a distinction as well. And the second word is overwhelming. This year has been overwhelming. While people are burnt out from the headlines, they're still getting them every day. How do you keep up with all of the politics and all of the coronavirus counts? And what counts as exposure to somebody? On our college campus, how do you keep up with who had exposure from who? And should I be in quarantine or not? And when's my next test? And do I have the health care to cover a test if school's not covering it? And what if I have to go home to my family? Will I get them sick? There are so many stressors at play. They're overwhelming. I think a third word to use to describe this year is lonely. As a result of the isolation and the months and months of quarantine, people are feeling more lonely than ever. They're at home. They maybe see those people at home every day. But people need more social interaction than that. Humans are social beings at heart. We need to see others. Also, even in a place that has been my home for years, this college, I feel lonelier than ever. At most, I can see 10 or 20 people in a group, and I'm used to 20 being the minimum in my groups or in my classes. In class, we all sit spread out and further away than ever. Can't really say hi to our friends. And when you come home, you have your roommates, but sometimes you need fresh people to see. And friendships have been limited because everybody's making different choices and seeing different people. So that's been a handicap too. A fourth word to use to describe this year that people are feeling: disappointed. Across the board, this has been a disappointment. Should we start small to large or large to small? Let's start large to small. It has been a disappointment that when America has needed unity the most, both parties prioritize their own party and their own needs. America is facing unprecedented times in terms of a pandemic, an economic crisis, and a civil rights movement that is larger than ever, and both parties can only think about standing up for their party. What about Americans? Americans are dying. Americans need relief in the form of money and health care, and they're not getting that because neither party is budging. And in terms of race, how can you see this police brutality and ignore it? America needs an answer, and neither party has it right now. And it's disappointing to see. Not a surprise, but definitely a disappointment. And then break that down to a smaller scale, our university as a whole. It's been disappointing to see our leadership. We have a president who, in the most hypocritical way, told us we can't go anywhere, we can't be in groups of 10 without masks, and he goes to the White House to celebrate victory for our university and our law school, debatably, but he doesn't wear a mask, and he's in a group of 10 or 20 or more. Disappointing. And then you talk about our student body. Again, we needed unity, and we have not been united. There was a forum that people could rat out others for breaking rules, and it just caused a lot of distrust among undergraduate students. People wondering who's snitching on who, when they're going to get snitched on, ending up in suspensions and punishments that are pretty large for were seemingly small offenses. Not surprising, but disappointing for sure. And I think the final word that people are feeling right now is sad. Overall, 2020 has been weird, and we've had to make sacrifices as a country and as individuals, and I would happily make those sacrifices again. But sometimes, you just think about it. This was supposed to be my senior year of college. I was supposed to be going on fun trips that I had planned, supposed to be going to football games on a large scale and seeing my friends' parents and overall having a fun time. And I am having fun, just looks a little different. I go to class over Zoom now instead of seeing my friends in person. I sit at football games, but at a far distance from most other people. It's lucky that we get to be here, and I'm lucky that I'm healthy, but it's sometimes hard to not think about all the losses this year's had. And when I think about that, it's a little sad. So this is how people are feeling right now. That's how we've gotten to where we are in 2020. The exhaustion and overwhelming year has led to burnout. A lot of people are feeling more lonely than ever. The state of our government is merely disappointing, and our leadership at this university. And when you think about all these four, it leaves you in sadness. But we trudge on. We watch our football games, and we sit at a distance, grasping on to the last sense of what was and what could have been our reality. Hopefully 2021 will be kind.